power clean is one of the most explosive lifts you can do, but it takes precise technique and brute strength to get maximum gains. In this video, I'll break down 7 techniques you can use to add 20 to 50 pounds to your power clean. And at the end of the video, I'll break down how strong you need to be to power clean benchmark weights like 135, 225, and 315. The first technique that is a game changer for your power clean technique is making bar contact. The power clean is primarily a lower body explosive lift, but if you aren't making contact with the bar, then you're using your upper body more than your lower body, and you'll never be able to power clean big weights. To get good bar body contact, you'll need to keep the bar close. That's one of the biggest principles in all of weightlifting technique. In your setup, make sure to start with the bar over the middle of your foot, but not quite touching your shins. Then, as you pull, use your lats to constantly guide the bar back to your body. Think of it like a straight arm lat pull down. By sweeping the bar back towards your body like this, you'll be able to keep the bar close without running the risk of moving your body forward into the bar and throwing off your balance. This will lead to tons of problems like swinging the bar out away from you or even a jump forward. Aim to make contact with the bar from just above the kneecaps all the way up into the upper thighs before you finish your extension aggressively. If you keep this contact, you'll feel just how much more aggressively the bar is launched up, especially compared to no contact. One drill that you can use to work on bar contact in the power clean is the tempo power clean. Probably one of my favorite drills from my free beginner guide and 6-week program, which you can find linked in the description below. Simply set up like you're going to perform a normal power clean, but instead of ripping the bar off the floor as fast as possible, I want you to take 4 seconds to get from the ground to your upper thigh position before you finish your extension quickly. This slow pull gives you the time to practice sweeping the bar back towards your body and not moving your body forward into the bar to make contact, all while making sure that you are not losing your mid-foot balance. Try these out for 4 to 10 sets of 1 to 2 reps, either as a warm-up and movement primer with light weights, building up to your working weights, or as your main technique variation for the day. The second tip to power clean more is to use hook grip. Hook grip is a technique that all Olympic weightlifters and some powerlifters use to eliminate grip strength as a potential limiting factor. Hook grip also has an added benefit of removing any unnecessary arm tension in the pull so you can get the most out of your leg drive. Now, the hook grip is one of those things that can actually make your lifts immediately better if you do it right. To set up, wrap your thumbs all the way under the bar as far as possible. Then lay your fingers under your thumb so that your thumb is sandwiched between the bar and your fingers. Don't tuck your thumb behind the bar with a bent thumb. This just makes the hook grip feel harder without any of the benefits. We also don't want to see a got your nose type situation where the thumb is poking out. This is going to slip out pretty easily. Now, you'll want to use your hook grip for the pull, but as you turn the bar over to your shoulders, I recommend letting go of that hook grip so you can be fast and fluid with the elbows and not have too much tension in your grip and in your arms as you're trying to get your elbows up to their highest height. Now here's the thing, hook grip is going to be pretty uncomfortable. If you're doing cleans about twice a week, it's going to take about 3 weeks before the hook grip feels natural to you, but it will give you outsized returns. However, there is one thing that you can do to ease the discomfort. Most weightlifters who are snatching and clean and jerking 4 times a week or so are wearing thumb tape around their thumbs. This just helps protect the skin and make sure that it doesn't hurt as much. I don't personally use it very often, but if you're doing Olympic lifts 3, 4, 5 times a week, it's almost a necessity. The third technique you need to use if you want to power clean more is to fix your rack position. Most exercise advice has you squeezing your shoulder blades back as tight as you possibly can, but for anything involving the front rack, we want to do the opposite. A strong front rack position requires you to push your shoulders forward and slightly up so that you create a shelf for the bar to rest on so that your arms and more likely your wrists are not supporting all that weight. This front rack position also makes it easy for you to get your elbows under the bar fast, which is a huge factor in getting under heavy weights. Now, if you have a hard time pushing your shoulders forward to create a good rack position, try these 2 drills. First is the scap push-up, one of the exercises in my free mobility guide for weightlifters, which you can find linked in the description below. Set up in a forearm plank position, then push your shoulders as far away from the ground as you possibly can, rounding your upper back. Then sink your shoulder blades down until your shoulder blades are squeezed completely back together. Alternate between these 2 positions for 2 to 3 sets of 5 to 10 reps before every workout. The second exercise you can do to fix your rack position for the power clean is the underhand dead hang. This will stretch the lats, which is important for getting the elbows up in that front rack position, but more importantly, it's going to force external rotation of the shoulder, which is a key factor in keeping all of your fingers under the bar while the bar is on the rack position. So if you're always having a hard time with your front rack position, especially if your elbows are starting to flare out and your fingers are sliding in and off the bar, then try this stretch out for 2 to 3 sets of 30 to 60 seconds as often as possible. I recommend most of my athletes do them in their warm-up in between sets of empty bar warm-up work. Now, I get it. Nobody wants to spend time working on their mobility. It's boring, and frankly, I'd rather be lifting. But if this is the one thing that's holding you back from adding 20, 30, 50 pounds onto your power clean, then this should be your biggest focus. Take the time now to work on your mobility and improve that front rack position so that you can spend more time later doing the lifting part that you love. The fourth tip to power clean more immediately is to fix your start position. Sprinters spend tons of time mastering their start off the blocks. Golfers do the exact same thing with their stance and swing. And throwers perfect every single step of their movement across the ring. Perfecting your start position is critical in every single sport or exercise you want to get better at. In the power clean, your setup and start position is where 99% of mistakes are made. Often lifters think that they need to spend more time working on more advanced techniques like a more aggressive extension or mastering their third pull under the bar. But if you don't have a solid foundation in your setup and start position, none of that matters. To set up for the power clean, start with your feet in your pulling stance. This should be a narrower stance than you would use for squats. You can turn your toes out just a little bit, but make sure to point your knees in the same direction as your toes for maximum power off the floor. Place your hands in the same grip that you front squat with, usually about thumb's distance away from the knurling on the bar. Just make sure that your stance isn't so wide or your grip so narrow that it forces your knees to be caved in your start position. This is not a strong start position. This is a strong start position. Set your grip using the hook grip we talked about. Then pull the slack out of the bar and drop your hips down, keeping that tension until viewed from the side, the bar is directly in line with the back of your armpits and your balance is mid-foot. Now, there's two common mistakes people make in the power clean start. First is pulling too fast off the floor and letting the hips rise faster than the bar. This kills your leg drive off the floor and will end up leading to a miss at heavier weights. Think hips low and chest up throughout the entire pull. The second mistake people make in their power clean start is using a rolling start. I hate a rolling start. Yes, there are some examples of some high-level lifters using this, but it's very rare. For most people, I recommend a static start. Approach the bar where it is without moving it. And when you look down, that bar should cover the bottom of your shoelaces. From here, you can drop your hips down to do your start position, and voila, the bar is in the perfect spot. It's close to the shins, but not quite touching, and your balance is mid-foot. No rolling around needed. Rolling the bar forward and backward guarantees that every single rep you do will have a slightly different start position. And when it comes to perfecting your technique, we need every rep to be consistently the same every time. Take the time to master your start position. It's everything when it comes to power cleaning more weight. And it will give you more results than almost anything else in this video. The fifth tip to immediately improve your power clean is to move your feet. There's two stances you'll use in the power clean, your pulling stance and your squatting stance. And while we're not doing full cleans here, you'll still want to move your feet out to your squat stance, and I'll show you why. If you leave your feet planted in your pulling stance, then we only have about 6 inches of room to catch the bar before we run out of room at the ankles, and your knees can't go any further forward where we'll have to step forward to save the lift. But if you move your feet out from your pulling stance to your squat stance, you now have everywhere from a slight knee bend all the way until about parallel, just above where the lift would still be considered a power clean. Now, it's also incredibly common to see lifters move their feet but go way too wide. I call this the starfish power clean, and it has a few disadvantages. First, you'll still have to catch the bar relatively high, not quite as high as if you'd left your feet in your pulling stance, but you definitely won't be able to get as low as if you'd caught in your normal squat stance. Second is that too wide of a catch stance can be pretty risky. Power cleans are a fast movement, and when you catch too wide, it gives your knees very little wiggle room to move. And in the chance that your knees do move, it can end up pretty easily in a weak position. In fact, I was demoing this pretty recently with some very light weight and tweaked my knee. So make sure that you're not ending up in a position that looks like this, and instead we want to end up in a position that looks like this. Try to keep your feet close enough together in that squat stance that your knees have plenty of room to go forward to catch the bars, not only being able to go in. Now, the cool thing is footwork is one of the easiest things to fix in weightlifting. It just takes reps. Take a brute force approach to fixing footwork issues. Every rep from the empty barbell to your max weight should look exactly the same. And you can practice your footwork without any weight in between sets so that it becomes muscle memory and you won't have to think about it for long. The sixth technique you can use to power clean more weight is to full clean more weight. You should be able to full clean more than you power clean, but for a lot of beginners, that's not the case because they're not quite as comfortable or strong in the bottom of the squat. If you practice full cleans more, you'll start to feel more confident catching cleans, not just high, but anywhere in that middle range, which is where truly heavy power clean weights will force you. Plus, when you go to attempt a new power clean PR, it helps to know that you've already full cleaned it before, and you're much more likely to be able to power clean it now. If you're familiar with power cleans but haven't tried a full clean, here's how you can ease into it. First, try a power clean with a pause in your catch. The moment the bar gets to your shoulders, stop for a second, then add a front squat in. At first, this may look like this. But over time, we want it to look more like this, until you can simply just do a full clean without a stop between catching and squatting. Now, if you stay to the end of the video, I'll break down how strong you need to be in the full clean to power clean some benchmark weights like 135, 225, and 315. The seventh technique you can use to power clean more is to front squat more. While the front squat isn't as important to the power clean as it is to your full clean, it still plays a huge role in your confidence when getting under the bar. In the last technique, I talked about catching power cleans anywhere from a slight knee bend all the way to just above parallel. And one thing that can make this easier is having a surplus of strength in the front squat. At a certain point, pulling the bar high enough to power clean it here is going to be your limiting factor. But if you only have to pull the bar up to rib height, you can really power clean a lot more. Talking yourself into getting under 185, 225, or 315 is going to be tough if you don't have a surplus of strength in that full front squat. If you try to catch power cleans in that lower to middle range, but you don't have the front squat strength for it, you're gonna have a hard time putting on the brakes to stop yourself from getting pushed all the way into the bottom of the squat. And you'll also have a hard time keeping your core braced to prevent your upper body from rounding forward and missing the lift in front. Not to mention, if you don't front squat often, you'll likely not have a strong front rack position. And because of that, you're less likely to commit on getting those elbows all the way through quickly to make the lift. With this in mind, here's how strong you need to be to power clean benchmark weights like 135, 225, and 315. If you want to power clean 135, you'll need to be able to full clean anywhere from 150 to 165 pounds and front squat anywhere from 165 to 195. If you want to power clean 185, you'll need to be able to full clean anywhere from 205 to 230 pounds and front squat between 225 and 270 pounds. If you want to power clean 225 pounds, you'll need to full clean about 250 to 275 pounds and front squat between 275 and 320 pounds. If you want to power clean 275 pounds, you'll need to be able to full clean anywhere from 305 to 340 pounds and front squat between 335 and 405 pounds. And if you want to power clean 315 pounds, you'll probably need to be able to full clean between 335 and 385 pounds. And front squat between 380 and 440 pounds. Now, let's talk about strength ratios for a second. Strength ratios are a pretty useful tool to identify any weak points in your training. But if you notice, some of the weight ranges on these are pretty wide. Don't think that it's impossible to power clean 275 pounds unless you have a 400-pound front squat. That's on the high end. The better your technique is, the more efficient you can be with your strength. This means that if you have great technique, you may be able to power clean 225 pounds, but only front squat 230 pounds. But here's the thing, you need to front squat anyway, so it pays to have an excess of strength. A bigger front squat almost always means that you're guaranteed to have a bigger clean, and it makes power clean and clean maxes less taxing on your recovery. So when in doubt, get stronger, but make sure that you're still working on your technique to be as efficient as possible. If you found this video helpful, then make sure to check out my free Discord group where you can take videos of your lifts and post them, and I'll give you free technique advice. Or you can grab one of my weightlifting programs linked down in the description below. And if you liked this video, then make sure to check out this episode of the Last Set Best Set podcast, where we break down how athletes can start incorporating Olympic lifting into their training programs.